Hello everyone, this is Mary Ann and I'm back with another video. Here in this video, I'm going to show you how I made this A4 sized graph notebook that I'm going to be using for my research for my graduate thesis. And I showed this the first time in my One Book July update, which I will link down below. The notebook has a front loading plastic cover and it has a graph paper inside, and at the back, before the back cover, it also has another top loading plastic envelope, but this time it has a flap in it, and then there's the back cover. In this video, I'm going to share with you how I made it. So now let's jump right in. First of all, I made the graph on InDesign. As you can see, those are all lines that were manually made by me. There is no easy way to do this on InDesign. I just made the lines one by one, and I just made sure that I followed a certain kind of grid, which was a little bit tricky because there is a limit to how many guide lines you can actually make on InDesign, but I was able to work with it and come up with this particular graph. And for the cover, I just used the A5 size and then created rectangles in layers. The first layer is that entire black thing, followed by another rectangle with a white border, and then followed by a smaller rectangle with a white border. And then I placed the title of the working title of my thesis, which would be The Haunting of Those Who Left Us, because I'm going to be studying the phenomenon of overseas contract workers from the Philippines traveling to abroad for various reasons, and that causes a haunting of sorts in Philippine literature. And then I put my name and my major and the year that I started. Now that QR code that you see at the bottom of that cover page layout is a QR code that leads directly to my academia page, where I upload all of my academic papers that I have submitted to my classes ever since November 2013. I don't upload all of the papers, I just upload the final papers, which is a culmination of everything that I have learned for the semester as applied to a particular work of literature. And I will link my academia page down below. I decided to place the QR code there because I want to be able to get to that page immediately from my phone. I just use a free QR code scanner app that I downloaded to my phone for free, and I use that if I want to get to my academia papers right away, because sometimes when I'm feeling a little bit low, or I'm feeling that it is pointless, or I'm feeling that I'm losing my way, I go to that page and look at all of the final papers that I have submitted, that I have worked so hard for, and which I have gotten pretty good grades for. I kind of feel like I'm back on track immediately, like I'm encouraged by all of the past papers that I have submitted. So I think it's a very useful feature to have for this notebook. The particular tools that I am going to be using to bind this notebook is the Tosical double loop ring bind system. It's by Carl. Carl is the name of the manufacturer, but I don't know why it says Tosical on the other equipment. That thin one right there is what I use to actually hole punch the paper. And I'm just showing you here a sample of an A4 sheet of paper. I just put it right there, and then I just drag that slider down, and then the paper is going to be hole punched according to the double loop ring that I'm going to be using to bind the notebook. And this other gadget is what will be used to close the binding, as I'm going to show later. And then I'm going to be using this 13mm for A4 double loop rings in black. I also have some smaller ones there, but I hardly ever use them anymore because all of the papers that I have to bind are very thick. Now this locker equipment can lock 4 different sizes of double loop rings, 6 millimeters, 8, 10, and the 13. The 6 millimeters is what I have on there. This is the smallest. But for this notebook, we're going to be using the 13 millimeter double loop rings. And the way that it works, as I'm going to show you later, is that you simply select what size of rings you're going to be locking down, and then you set it to that particular size of rings, and then you just pull the lever down. The material that I have used for the cover and for the plastic top loading folder is this. It's just an ordinary folder sleeve. I don't know what to call it. It's very inexpensive. It comes folded over and it's sealed at the bottom, and it's open at the top and on one side. That other side that I just showed is the one that's folded over. And from that, I just cut it down to A4 size, but I left a flap on top so that nothing would fall off accidentally. And the entire thing is the exact same size as an A4 sheet of paper that we're going to be printing the graph paper on. Now here I have already printed the graph paper file onto the A4 sheets. I made sure to use A4 sheets that are 100 GSM. I used the paper one, A4 100 GSM in the purple wrapping, not the dark blue one. And for the back cover, this is just a plastic cover that I have cut out from a very old binder that I had a bunch of things in for many years, but I wasn't really using it anymore. It was still very clean, and I like that it's thick and sturdy, and I cut it down to exactly A4 size. And here is the a printout of the cover that I have designed on InDesign that I have showed you towards the beginning of this video. And there is the QR code right there that leads directly to all of my academic papers that I have uploaded to academia. And here is the cover that I have cut down. I have used the same material that I have used for the top loading, that one that has a flap in it. And I actually made 2 of those with the flaps, and I wasn't sure where I was going to put it. I've already put in one at the back before the back cover, and I thought of using another one near the front cover, but I wasn't really sure because I wasn't even sure that I was going to be needing it, and so I actually just I ended up placing only one of those top loading envelopes with flaps at the back of the notebook, and then I did away with the one in the front completely. But I left in the cover material that is actually a top loading pocket without a flap. It's exactly the same as the one that I made without a flap. It looks like a plain cover, but it's not. It's a cover that is also a top loading pocket. So here now I have punched everything using that Carl slider hole punch that I have showed you before. And we are now going to put in the double loop rings. And the way to put the rings in is, you see these little notches at the front of the locker equipment? That's where we just need to slot in the rings. And then here's one crucial thing that we all have to remember when using this kind of binding system. We need to separate the back covers and put them actually in front of the front cover. It is a very crucial step to make, which I will explain why later. So now we have already placed the back in the front and now we are just going to put in the pages in that particular order. It doesn't have to be one by one, as long as we can put in the pages very neatly into all of the open rings, then it should be fine. So there I am, just making the paper straight and then loading everything very carefully into those opened ends of the double loop rings. And then finally there we have that top loading pocket with the flap that goes at the back of the envelope before the back cover. And now we are going to take it out. Notice that I have already put the marker on the 13 millimeter rings, because 13 millimeter rings is what we're using for this particular project. And then I just put in the rings through that metal thing and then push the lever down and then turn it around for good measure and then relock it. And I am going to turn the notebook back around, and then the back cover is now at the back of the notebook again. And the reason for that is so that the joints of the double loop rings are hidden. On the back of the notebook, when the notebook is closed, you should be able to see only those double loops going around from the front holes to the back holes. You shouldn't be able to see how all the rings locked together. That's why we hide it in the pages between the last page of the notebook and the back cover of the notebook. And there I have just repeated the locking twice just for good measure. I didn't need to do it, I just wanted to make sure. And now here is how it looks again, locked with the locked parts of the double loop rings hidden inside the notebook. And that is why we should always put the back cover in the front when we are binding our notebooks using this system. Now let me just show you the front cover again with the top loading pocket, which looks like just a plain plastic cover, and then the graph papers on the inside. I'm really pleased with how this turned out. I am looking forward to using this notebook for my research. I actually did a notebook like a year ago, but those were not graphed, those were just ruled, because I didn't know how to create a graph. I thought there was a shortcut on doing it in design, but there is no shortcut, so I just sucked it up and spent a couple of hours doing the graph, and now I'm pretty pleased with how everything has turned out. So now here we are having another look at the pages again of the notebook, and there's that back top loading pocket with the flap and the sealed ends. And by the way, I have purchased this double loop ring binding system in 2006 when I was working for the Philippine National Police Special Action Force. I purchased this set for about 4,000 pesos from National Bookstore, and I was so grateful that I purchased it, because it was really a great big convenience for me to be able to ring bind my own drafts before I submit them to my client, the Special Action Force, because I would usually finish writing my drafts at 4 a.m., 3 a.m., and if I didn't have this binding equipment, I would have to go to sleep first and then wake up again very early in the morning, like 8 o'clock, so I can go to the print shop and have my printed drafts bound with double loop rings. But after I purchased this ring binding equipment, after I was done printing out a draft at like 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock in the morning, I bound them myself at home, and then I drove to the brigade where I was supposed to submit them, and I would drop them off with a guard at duty, and then go home and sleep until noon because I'm done with work. So it was really, really very convenient. It was really a big help to have it, and I'm glad I purchased it. And now the project has been over for years, and I have been able to use this ring binding equipment a lot, especially for my studies. So if you're a notebook addict, and if you're a stationery addict, or if you write a lot of things and you have to organize your filing, this is an equipment that I highly recommend that you purchase. It's an investment, but it's a very, very necessary thing. And that is how I made my notebook, which I am going to be using for my research for my graduate thesis, which will start this August. And this is what I have been preparing for in July for my One Book July 2017 project. Me enrolling in the thesis proposal class or course for August is actually the culmination of my One Book July 2017 project. And well, this is how I made this notebook. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope we were able to get some tips on how to make a notebook that you can make a lot of use from. And I will catch you again on the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye!